Hi, my name is Anna McGuinn, and for my ATM 100 class extra credit, I wanted to show you guys a quick, basic, easy stage makeup tutorial because some theaters give you a lot of time and some theaters really don't. When I worked in repertoire theater, we had plenty of time. When I do high school theater shows and I was performing for elementary and middle schools, I did not have a lot of time. So I already have did my face moisturizer. I use the Olay Complete All Day Moisturizer. It does have SPF 15 in it. So you know, SPF 15 if you're working in the sun, especially doing Shakespeare in the Park when it was 100 degrees in July and you're carrying around a 80-pound 10-foot tall puppet, you really want to make sure that you are keeping your face protected from the sun. So now I am finishing off my brows. My brows typically take me a long time, so I'll probably have them done before I go to the theater. This is the Tarte Frameworker Brown Pomade in the shade Golden Blonde, and I'm just finishing out. I will start my brow sketching the outside horizontally, and then I will go in and fill in vertically. Some shows will require you to have like big, bold brows, especially like a show like when I saw Cabaret at Market Theater in Anderson. Those girls had very bold makeup. I could see their brows from 10 miles away. So after our eyebrows are done, I will typically take if I'm having a really bad acne day, I'll take the e.l.f. Corrective Concealer, and I'll take the green shade, which is to correct and hide blemishes, and I'll usually just use the little mirror. Some people who work in the theater tend to like bring their own mirrors. Most of the theaters that I worked at have like huge like bench mirrors, I guess that's what you could say. But sometimes I'll just need to get a little up close and personal with myself. And so the green is clearly on, and I'll just blend that out with a damp beauty sponge or beauty blender. And when you do put on concealer, you can still see it's kind of more like minty now, but the concealer that you use will help hide that as well. And this is trying to be as quick as possible. Some things you should have done before you go to the theater, like I would say your foundation, just like eyebrows and like primer and things like that. When working for children's theaters, I would tend to have more hair done than makeup. So working for princess parties, for example, I just put like a little purple eyeshadow, a little foundation, make myself look dewy. But right now I'm about to do my concealer. This is the CoverGirl Clear Invisible Concealer in the shade Fair. And I'm going to just kind of put that where I see the most visible blemishes. Skin is not perfect, and working in the live theater, you do tend to sweat your makeup off a lot. So we want to not necessarily hide imperfections unless we're going to be statues for the day. But, just to kind of give a very aesthetic appeal. And I'll just really kind of beat that into my face with a damp beauty sponge or a beauty blender. I also recommend, if you are going to do your makeup at the theater, don't bring a giant makeup case. In my room, I have a giant makeup case. However, I just tend to bring a bag that kind of looks like this one. This is my clear travel bag full of like hair products and hair gel. Still from when I had to do hair gel for Julius Caesar. So I wouldn't recommend bringing a giant makeup case because we're all kind of sharing space, and it's just nice to your fellow castmates to not have your stuff everywhere. It gets kind of annoying. Alright, so now that the concealer is done, I will do my foundation. And I use the Sephora 10 Hour Wear Perfection Foundation in the shade Light. And when I would do high school theater, they really didn't want us to pack this on, but when I did repertoire, they really were very adamant about packing it on. Like, they didn't want to see any redness. And because I am so fair, I do have rosacea on my cheeks. But sometimes that helps when you're working under super bright lights. But most Shakespeare shows do have very fair skinned girls. So we really packed this on. So I'm just, I spread it along my beauty blender and then I will beat it. When I first started doing makeup for theater, it was actually my first show, my sophomore year, and it was a superhero show. So we used very basic makeup because we obviously were using masks as well. But what I didn't realize is you really want to put the foundation on your lips as well, and you'll definitely wipe it off. But just making sure you don't have like a line where you're trying to avoid your lips. Just if you really need to get it on your lips, just go ahead. I usually do about 3 pumps of this foundation. This is a 10-hour wear, so it really gets its use. And it's also $10 to $15 for a bottle of Sephora's own foundation. I used to use the Tarte Amazonian Clay, which was double the price, and you didn't get as much, and it just wasn't a great stage makeup foundation. I know some people use water-based, where you actually have to put it under the water and like put it on with a special sponge, but this is just really trying to get a natural look. We are going for a natural look today. We're not doing any kind of bruising or prosthetic or dirt on our faces. Okay, so I think we are done with that. So now I will go back and do my concealer again. So I'll dip into my CoverGirl, same concealer as before, and we're going to do the concealer method that probably every person has heard before, but if you have not, you'll draw 2 triangles underneath your eyes. Some people will do lines, some people will do triangles. I just find that the triangles work the best for me. And you will draw the triangles. Then you'll do 3 little swipes at your chin, as well as, I usually just do like a swipe, but some people use dots. And you will kind of make a tree. So you'll swipe up and kind of make a tree at your T-zone. And then you will blend that out. Funny story, I was doing the boys' makeup for when I was in a repertoire doing Around the World in 80 Days. We only had 4 males in the cast, and our director wanted them to look kind of porcelain-like, so I had to do the boys' makeup, and they said, oh, it's like using paintbrushes and painting your face. And I'm like, well, kind of, you could say it like that. I really didn't get into makeup until I really did start theater. I did competition dance for most of my life, and even then, like, it was just a lot, especially the specific steps, and then we had to put rhinestone on our faces, and then everyone had to have the same shade of lipstick. I think a different variety is good, especially in the theater. So when you think it's all blended, you can go ahead and, some people like to bake their face, which means taking the translucent powder and kind of putting it everywhere and letting it sit. But when you work in the theater, you don't have that much time to like do your face that way. So I take my favorite translucent powder, which is the Hard Candy Translucent, LOOSE, and I just kind of swipe it along, and I really kind of do a circular motion, kind of like you're mixing, and just putting it all down my face. This is a makeup routine that I really got easy with when I started going to the beach with my family and my cousins, who my cousin is actually a makeup artist, so she spends plenty of time in front of the mirror. So I just try to get it done as quickly as possible so I can get out. And once you think that you've got all of it kind of blended, I will take my blush, which is never was my favorite part. I used to hate having to have like super rosy cheeks, but when I started working the theater, I was completely washed out. So this is the Milani powdered blush in Blossom Time Rose. It's very pink. And using inexpensive makeup in the theater is, I think, necessary because things break, things get lost, things happen, and you're sharing. So I don't want to bring my like $30 James Charles Morphe palette unless I'm doing like heavy work. So what I do is I will swipe my blush all the way to my ear, really kind of bring it up on the apples of my cheeks, where if I smile, then you see it. So I'll tend to give like a little dimple smile and bring it up and around and kind of do a swirling motion, and do it to the other side too. Really dipping into that Blossom Time Rose and really like bring it into my ear. And then something I never thought I would ever do, and then I started doing it and I fell in love with it in the theater, is putting it on my nose as well. I find that makes things a lot prettier, I would say. I don't know. And then after I finish my blush, something that I really love doing, but a lot of people don't do in the theater, is put on highlight. So this is the e.l.f. Their most basic highlighter in the shade Moonlight Pearl. And I will take a brush kind of like this one, and I won't put it a lot on my cheeks. I find that I usually put too much on my cheek. So when I'm really running behind, I will put it on the tip of my nose and the bridge of my nose. So if I look, you know, it gives me kind of like this glossy finish. And then I'll also put it on my very top lip. But if you're doing a kissing scene, I wouldn't recommend, because it will get on the actor's top lip as well. So then the bridge and the top, and I'll just kind of let it sit there. And then what I do after my highlight is I'll put a little more setting powder on, just to kind of set the highlighter in place so it doesn't move. I find that this helps actually a great deal. And just if I have a little extra, I'll put it like right here on my blush. Then I like to take my primer for my eyelids. This is the eyeshadow primer, just so we don't crease our eyelids. Eyeshadow does tend to crease, and if you're doing big theatrical makeup, like with a lot of pinks and a lot of purples, you'll definitely see the creasing more than with a natural palette, which is what I will be using today. So I just take the eyeshadow primer and I will prime my lids, and then I will go a step further and I will use my concealer that I've been using, the CoverGirl, and I will place that on my eyelids as well, 2 little dots. And that gives me kind of a same shade base to match the rest of my face. My eyelids will be a little lighter, but once I cover them in eyeshadow, definitely can tell. So when you do different sort of makeup, you really find what works best. It's a lot of trial and error. For example, for my first 3 shows, even really 4, for like my first real 4 shows, I always did winged eyeliner, and it took me so long to do, and I decided just to never do it again unless absolutely necessary, because it just takes me forever. So I'm going in with my favorite palette to use for theatrical productions that are natural, the Milani Soft and Sultry. This is $12. It's the most natural eyeshadows. And I take the first shade called Bear, and it's the first shade right here, and it's very much like a skin tone shade, and I'll put that all over my lid just to kind of give it like not the same color as the rest of my skin, but just really giving it the rest of the shadows a base color to work off of. Next, I usually will take the shade Smokin', and I will place that going inside the corner and then brushing it out. So I'll start in the corner of my eye and then kind of fade it out using a circular motion, like mixing, like I did with my blush before. And I'll sometimes go in and not tap and just make it a little darker. Okay, that looks good. And sometimes you don't want to use shimmers on the inside. Like, I know a lot of people love using shimmers on the inside, but for example, when I was in a show called Buckets, which was futuristic, premises of the show was you were born with a certain battery life in this futuristic world, and you had to complete many things before your battery life ran out. There was like no shimmer at all. There was no sparkle. We didn't use any sparkle. However, I will sneak in to accentuate my eyes. My cousin, who does professional makeup, actually taught me this. I will take my e.l.f. highlighter, and I will take a small little pencil brush and dab it right in the corner to accentuate my eyes and make my eyes really where I want people to see them. If I'm like super far away on stage, I want people to be able to see my eyes. Working in repertoire, the theater that I used to work in the most was actually floor seating, so it was round and people would see you from all different angles, and I just wanted people to look in my eyes. Alright, and next I will do a setting spray. This is the Hard Candy Sheer NV Setting Spray in Glow, and I'll give my face a light mist of it. And I'll wait for that to dry because mascara will typically run. If it's not a waterproof mascara. I do not have any waterproof mascara on me at the current moment because of COVID-19 and shipping things being delayed. But before I actually will do the mascara portion, because this will also run, my theater teacher back at home, in my high school theater teacher, said that there's always something that an actor can accentuate that is about them. I have very many freckles and they show up a lot in the summer, but doing theatrical work, I usually had to cover up my freckles, so I'll sneak in using this is the Revlon Color Stay Brown Shape and Glow Felt Tip eyeliner in the shade Blonde. It's eyebrow and it's also eyeliner, and I will do like little freckles, really accentuating that I do have freckles. Trying to find some freckles in the midst of all this, but then I will pat it and kind of spread the color out. And you can tell it kind of made a little bit of a difference. And then I can't forget my nose because I do have them on my nose as well. Not a lot, just a little bit. Just accentuate what you have. Okay, that looks good. And now I will do mascara, which is probably my favorite part because I have very long eyelashes and I really like to accentuate how long my eyelashes are. This is the Maybelline Lash Sensational, and once again, you can get a 2-pack of these. I like it because it's a super thin angled brush, and I always use the shade black. Some people use brown. And I will just coat my top lashes. I actually don't coat my bottom lashes because my bottom lashes are very, very long. So it kind of looks like I have spider eyes if I coat my bottom lashes as well. Okay, just kind of going all around. I used to never go inside the corner back when I first started, and then I realized how important it actually was to show that you do have a full set of eyelashes. So, and some mascaras will actually make your eyelashes a little too long, so you just kind of have to see what works. For example, my mom has very small eyelashes, so she uses a more expensive mascara versus me, who has very long eyelashes. So those are my lashes. Usually only one dip of the brush works for me. And then the last step of my makeup routine is lips, which I hated doing growing up, especially in competition dance. We had to wear a dark red, like beet red, purple lipstick, and we all had to wear the same, and it was just a gross, it was very bad. So I will typically use a matte lipstick. This is the Revlon Ultra HD matte lip color in the actual like shade called Matte, and then I will swipe that on the bottom. It's very rosy, very natural. I'll just swipe a little bit on top to make sure we get an even coat. Some people really like to use lip pencils because it doesn't move, but I find that if you gloss it over a matte, it gives it that still finish. And I've been using this lip color since I first discovered it for theater, finding that it works. Alright, and then some people will usually give like a kiss on the hand, just to make sure that it works, but then I like to go over it with a gloss after I've kind of let it sit and dry. This is the Rimmel London Stay Glossy in the shade Bare Minimum, which really makes sense if you're working in the theater. And I go over it one more time. And just really depending on if you have a kiss scene or not. For example, I had actually 2 kiss scenes my junior year, and I really didn't wear anything that just didn't dry super quick because I didn't want to give any guy some kind of lip color on their lips that they originally didn't have. Genuinely, you will have more time to do your hair, like I said before, especially if you're in a Victorian style show where you have these big, huge hairdos. But right now, I'm actually just about to go to an advising meeting. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and I enjoyed filming for you guys. Bye!